The divine beyond good or bad. That is our reflection today. I interpret the divine as undiluted isness. Not good, not bad, but simply what is. The truth of the situation at hand. As human beings, we love to measure and label. We call something good when it pleases us. We call it bad when it disrupts us. But the divine is not caught in our categories. The divine does not need our approval. It simply is. This is not even about saying, well, it looked bad, but it turned out good in the end. That is still judgment, still measuring life against our desires. Isness goes deeper. It is the fact of reality, unmoved by what we call it. Fire burns. We call it good when it warms us. We call it bad when it destroys a house. But fire itself just is. Death comes. We call it tragic or we call it merciful. But death itself just is. Rain falls. We name it a blessing or we call it inconvenience. But rain just is. We complicate life when we bring in all our thoughts and emotions, when we measure every situation against our comforts and expectations. The mind spins its stories. The emotions amplify its fears. And soon we are not living what is. We are wrestling with what we think should be. There's always a natural progression. Every action carries its own trajectory. But when we add or take our judgments, our attachments, our fears, we alter that trajectory. We bend it, stretch it, twist it. And in doing so, we move further from the truth at hand. We think we are helping life, but often we are just delaying its unfolding. Judgments, attachments, and fears already cast an influence, like invisible currents shaping how we see and how we respond. And if we carry influence, our distortions shape the minds of others too. This is true for each of us in our small circles, but it is also true of those in authority, leaders, systems, voices with power. When they act from distortion, when they feed judgment and fear, they magnify it through media. And it becomes a tool of mass manipulation, a tool of destruction. And it goes further still. When there's deliberate twisting of what is, when history is rewritten, when spiritual texts are reshaped to control rather than to free, when the food and drug industry spreads misinformation that clouds the body and weakens the soul. This is distortion raised to another level. This is the witchcraft of our age, a bending of truth, a manipulation of isness that turns wisdom into confusion and life into dependency. Some call it joining a coven. Yes, that word has roots in circles of witches who work with energy. But hear me, I am not speaking here about those traditions. I am speaking about the spiritual reality of distortion. Anytime we lend our agreement to twisting what is, we step into a circle of manipulation. And if we are honest, we can see it all around us. Governments rewriting history to preserve power, industries twisting knowledge of food and medicine for profit, banks and corporations shaping economies through fear and control. Even churches bending spirit itself, using sacred texts not to liberate but to enslave. This is not reckless accusation. It is simply what is. These are the real movers and shakers of our world. And when they align with falsehood, they do not act alone. They gather the energy of millions. That is the great coven of our age. A circle of manipulation, a network of distortion. We may not be able to trace or untangle the centuries of deliberate misinterpretations of history, of spirit, of truth itself. That web is thick. But what we can do is remove our own bias as best we can. Because anything less is working against ourselves. When we knowingly or unknowingly cling to distortion, we join hands with the very forces that twist truth. We lend our energy to a collective of deception, a circle of distortion that thrives on our agreement. It means lending our energy to what twists the truth, instead of standing with the divine isness that frees. I call it what it is, an alliance with falsehood. And it costs us our freedom. It costs us our sanity. So what do? We return to the simple question. What is here? What is true in this moment? Not, is it good or bad? Not, does it serve my comfort or my fear? But simply, what is at hand? This is the practice. To pause before judgment. To meet life without the spin. To rest in Isness. The divine remains untouched. Isness cannot be diluted, distorted, or destroyed. It simply waits, steady, unshaken, for us to return. And that is our choice. To join hands with distortion or to stand free in the truth that is. I choose Isness. I choose freedom.